two big political headlines this week: who's in, who's out, and who's next in the race for governor, and the latest in the recall effort for New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell. Political analyst and historian Jim Engster, president of Louisiana Radio Network, is here to discuss. And Jim, this all centers around the recall petition and having enough to get the recall on a ballot.
This has been done in other municipalities. In fact, there was a recall effort against Pat Screen many years ago. Mayor of Baton Rouge, didn't work. And it's hard to get those signatures. And the people who are the organizers feel like they've got the right number, but the question is whether they're valid signatures. But they did get a break when 25,000 voters were deemed inactive, which means they're either deceased or no longer living in New Orleans, or they haven't voted in several years. So as a result of that, apparently the threshold for getting the recall elections is now down to about 45,000 voters. And they went with more than 50,000 to the registrar's office. So if they have legitimate voters, then we'll have a recall election.
Right. It's pretty rare to get to that point, though, isn't it?
It's hard to do, and people will sign something, and sometimes they're not on the level or they don't have the right information, and they get disqualified. So the threshold is high, as it should be, because LaToya was just elected not so long ago.
Sure, exactly. And when would they do a special election, if you're even assuming or thinking that that would happen?
It would be this year. Probably consistent with the October 14th primary. That would be the guess, but that would be determined by state officials. They would want it at a time when a lot of people would vote, and that would be consistent with the October 14th election, which is, another Morrow once said, the big enchilada. It's the governor's election.
It is the governor's race, and we had news this week in the governor's race that East Baton Rouge DA Hiller Moore would not run, which, interestingly enough, they say opens the way a little more so for Shawn Wilson as a lead Democratic candidate.
The Democratic vote in Louisiana right now is about 40%. Now, 40% is a lot of votes, and that's exactly what John Bel Edwards received when he ran in 2015 as the lone Democrat. But 40% is hard to get to 50 in a runoff, and John Bel Edwards did it twice, but he had a tough race the last time, and he was blessed with a wounded opponent the first time in David Vitter. Shawn Wilson has only been running for a few days. John Bel Edwards ran for
hasn't really announced
2.5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's running, and if he gets the field cleared, he will get one spot in the runoff, it would seem, almost by acclamation. But the question is whether or not he can win, and then we have this jockeying on the Republican side as to which Republican would be the survivor. And to this point, the Attorney General Jeff Landry has run brilliantly in basically dominating that side of the equation.
With anybody who would be a competitor opting out so far, right? And then Garrett Graves is a maybe, saying that he felt pressured to run.
There are some Republicans running, State Senator Sharon Hewitt, State Representative Richard Nelson. They're both good candidates, and I think they will get votes. But Jeff Landry, if he is going to be the lone Republican in the runoff, then he's there alone. And it would mean that one of those, in order to catch up with Shawn Wilson, would have to get 20, 25, maybe 30% of the vote and bring Wilson down. And it doesn't seem like they would be dipping from the same pool of voters, so it would seem unlikely there would be two Republicans. And the question is whether one of these others could catch fire and catch Jeff Landry. And we're only 32 weeks away. It's getting close.
It is getting close. And Jeff Landry has a war chest that's impressive, and he's just seemed to be seemed to be on a sort of coast so far, right?
Yeah, he is.
And hasn't had to say anything.
Not yet. He's an extremely conservative candidate, but we're in an extremely conservative state, and he embraces the fact that he has support of the former president, Donald Trump. And why not? Donald Trump got 2 wins in Louisiana by more than 400,000 votes. So
and does that change any today or in October as compared to last year or 2 years ago?
Well, generally the playbook is to run, if you're a Republican, to the right as in the primary and then move to the middle in the general election. But if Shawn Wilson is the candidate, he's never run in a statewide election. He's relatively unknown. And he doesn't have the resources, it would seem, that Jeff Landry does. So Landry will be the overwhelming favorite, and he may decide to moderate, or he may decide just to stay on the right flank and see what happens.
And it may not make any difference. to get him into office, right?
But there could still be a surprise, and
Yeah.
somebody could change their mind. Senator Cassidy, Senator Kennedy, the qualifying's not until August 8th through 10th, so there could be a surprise. But at this point, I think the odds-on favorite to succeed John Bel Edwards is his archenemy, the Attorney General, Jeffrey Martin Landry.
Interesting. Jim Engster, thanks so much. Always great to talk to you. I appreciate it.
My honor. Thank you.